Welcome along to Extra Time here on LCFC Radio and LCFC TV. Thank you very much for joining us after a bitterly disappointing Sunday, really, for Leicester City, who fell to a 2-1 defeat at Brighton. That doesn't even tell half the story, really, though, does it? We'll get into all of that over the course of the next hour or so. We'll talk Jamie Vardy, we'll talk Ademola Lookman. These guys will go head-to-head, of course, in our football jenga at the end of the show as well. And we might touch on the other Premier League games as well, seeing how we're doing for time. But yeah, without further ado, let's introduce the guests that we've got. We've got Iwan Roberts, Tony Cottee and Jerry Taggart. So a full house today on Extra Time. Good morning, guys. Good afternoon. How are we all?
Morning, boys.
Morning, lads.
Morning, chaps. Yeah, all good, thanks, Dan.
Jerry, you're playing golf straight after this, aren't you, as well? So the sooner we get this done, the better for you.
It's not a problem, Dan. Nice and relaxed today. No rush today. Got plenty of time.
Tony, we've not had you on for a while. How have you been?
I'm good, thanks, Dan. Yeah, I've been busy. I was over at West Ham yesterday. I'm sure we might talk about that. There was a few incidents in that game as well. And then I've got a meeting in London this afternoon. So without having a job at the moment, Dan, I'm relatively busy. So I'm okay, thanks.
And just to rub salt into the wounds as well, Ewan is abroad sunning himself as well, aren't you, Ewan?
I am, mate. I'm in on teams in the south of France for a few days. Got here yesterday. Watched the highlights of the game last night, and then I'm coming back on Friday. So a little 5-day break in the south of France.
Yeah. So Dan, you shouldn't be allowed to come on this show if you're abroad, because it's not fair on the rest of us, is it?
I totally agree with that, TC.
Yeah, we can see the sun beaming through that window behind you as well. Good. Right, without further ado, then let's talk about the game yesterday. Jerry, obviously you covered it for us, didn't you, on LCFC TV's Matchday Live? Overall, extremely disappointing, really, for a number of reasons.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very, very strange game. With all the decisions that and VAR getting involved. Obviously, the first one with a penalty that was given. The foul before that wasn't looked at. You can see why the referee gave the penalty, but I don't think the VAR actually looked at the lead up to the handball, which is obviously a key moment in the game. And yeah, it just sort of went on from there, didn't it? Okay, there's nothing wrong with our second goal from the set piece. But I suppose all the talking points are about the two corners and the offsides that incurred after that. But a strange game, and like you say, very disappointing, very frustrating watching it, because that second half performance was right up there. And somehow they managed to get absolutely nothing from the game.
Yeah, obviously, Tony, you've referenced the fact that you were at the West Ham game, which was happening simultaneously, and obviously that was full of incident as well. As you said, we might touch upon that a little bit later. But so you won't have seen the Leicester game live. I'm sure you'll have seen the highlights, of course. What did you make of it? Firstly, let's talk about the fact that Leicester went 2-0 down and were almost able to get back into the game, and really, a lot of Leicester fans will say probably should have done.
Yeah, I mean, you always have to try and take positives out of the game, Dan. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I didn't see the game live. I watched the highlights last night, and the highlights that they showed of the first half, it was almost as if Leicester didn't have a shot. I don't know whether Tate was out of the game. I don't know whether that was correct or not, but they didn't show anything from them going forward. To concede, two set pieces. I know we'll go into depth about that, but to concede from two set pieces, it's been a concern of mine, Dan, over the last year or so in terms of defending free kicks and corners. Very, very disappointing from that point of view. But, there was a lot of positives after going 2 goals down. There was some fantastic play, a wonderful goal. And let's be quite honest, Leicester should have at least drawn the game, in terms of what happened after they went 2-0 down. So, yeah, a negative, I would say, probably the first half, but the second half, a lot of positives.
Ewan, what did you make of it?
As Tony alluded to there, had all the possession, but in the first half, no shots on target. You can have all the possession that you like, but at the end of the day, it comes down to end product and putting balls in the box and working the opposition's goalkeeper. Didn't do that at all in the first half, and you can't go 2-0 down and then start playing. But especially in the Premier League, because if you do that 9 times out of 10, you're gonna lose the game. I thought two of the three decisions that went against Leicester were wrong. I think it's a penalty on Vestergaard to start off with. It's Maupay who sort of gets hold of his right arm and drags him down, and that's why he has that movement with his left hand. It comes off his hand. I haven't got a problem with that. But surely VAR have to look at the whole incident. And had they done that, then they could quite clearly have seen that it should have been a foul and the penalty should have been given. I think one of the offsides was offside. I'm not too sure which one it was, but I think it was the first one where Harvey Barnes is moving to the goalkeeper's right, and I don't think he's in his vision, in his line of vision. And I compared it to Matip's goal last week at Ellen Road, where I think it was Mane who was in a similar position to Barnes, moving away from the goalkeeper. He is standing in an offside position. He's not interfering with play. I just think it's the consistency of these decisions that are letting people down at the end of the day. But should have got something from the game in the end, whether it be a point. But as I say, you can't give teams a 2-goal lead, 2-goal start, and expect to get anything from the game, sadly. And once again, last season, we spoke about set pieces, corner kicks, free kicks in the final third. Leicester did concede far too many. It was an Achilles heel last season. And this season already, we've seen Leicester concede goals from those types of situations.
Yeah, let's talk about the decisions then, the key decisions in the game. The first one, Jerry, I think probably most people can agree. It did look like a foul on Yannick Vestergaard, didn't it? As you said, no problem. His hand was in the air. It did strike his hand, but it was the foul and the build-up, I think, that has frustrated a lot of Leicester fans.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a clear foul. He's very, very clever in what he's doing, by the way, Maupay. I mean, he showed a lot of nous, let's call it, because as he's grabbing his arm and Vestergaard's struggling to get away from him, at the key moment where he's flipped his arm behind his body to handle the ball, Maupay's let go of him, as if to say, but when you slow it down and the VAR's gone into it, you can clearly see that Maupay is grabbing him, stopping Vestergaard from getting any kind of, acceleration off the ground or any kind of momentum towards the ball. So as Iwan said, they don't take that into consideration. I think all they're looking at is, does he handle the ball? And if they did analyse that decision from start to finish, I'm sure the first infringement was Maupay grabbing the arm of Vestergaard. We spoke yesterday. There was more to it than that, though, Dan, as well. The fact that Shane Duffy was allowed 4 or 5 yards to come running in from the edge of the box and get that lead. Whether or not Vestergaard arms had been grabbed by Maupay, would he have got anything on the ball? I don't know, because you can't afford to give people that kind of room, especially someone like Shane Duffy who's got a fantastic leap on him. But at the end of the day, it was a handball that was given for someone who was off balance and being impeded. That's down to VAR. People said we'd have nothing to talk about when VAR came in. Well, it's the complete opposite, isn't it? We're now questioning the decisions that VAR are given, even though they can see the whole picture. And that's where people are getting frustrated and, scratching their heads.
You could see, Tony, couldn't you, Yannick Vestergaard, as soon as it happened, I think he obviously knew it had hit his hand. He knew that would probably have been given a penalty. He went straight away to the referee. He was holding his wrist, wasn't he? He was trying to say, look, that's what was happening to me. I was being dragged down, but it obviously was all in vain.
Yeah, it was, Dan. And I think we all get a little bit frustrated with the VAR thing. I mean, the whole point of VAR is to get the correct decision. Was it handball? Was it a penalty? Yes, absolutely, 100%. But if you look at the reason that his arm's up in the air, then you then get a different perspective, a different view. Now, listen, what we don't know is how many camera angles are they looking at? Do they just look at the one angle and go, oh, yeah, it's his hand penalty? Or do they look at it from 4 or 5 different... it's all right, me, I was watching the highlights last night, Dan, at which point, when you're doing a highlight show, you can select 3, 4, 5, 6 different camera angles. When it happens in real time, because that's what we're talking about, you need to get the correct decision. So, all right, it might take a little bit longer, but let's make sure we look at all the angles available just to check, and it was a clear foul by Maupay. Absolutely, 100% clear foul. but they haven't seemed to have looked at that. And that's what's frustrating from Leicester's point of view, because the whole point, as I said, of VAR is to get the correct decision. And it doesn't matter how long it takes. I know it's frustrating for fans, especially now they're back in the stadium. If it takes 3 or 4 minutes, it's very frustrating. We all know that. But you have to get the right decision. And I don't think that was the right decision. Leicester was certainly hard done by in terms of that penalty given.
Usually, Iwan and Tony are the odd ones out as being former strikers. We usually have Walshy, Matt, and Jerry. Jerry, you're the odd one out today, so I'll come to you with this one because it's a defender's point of view. But there, when you've got a forward, a striker that is grabbing you a little bit like that, I'm sure both Iwan and Tony would have done that themselves to block defenders off. How difficult is it? Because if you do that to a striker, you can give a penalty away. Whereas a striker, the worst that's going to happen to him is he gives a free kick away. So obviously the strikers in that instance have the upper hand, don't you? So how do you counteract that as a defender?
Well, it's pretty basic. I think first and foremost, what I will say is that Vestergaard was targeted yesterday from both defending and attacking set pieces. And what I mean by that, Mopé would stand on him because Leicester have a zonal marking, yeah, and to a certain degree, so do Brighton. So when Leicester were defending corners, Mopé would go and stand on him, and when Leicester were attacking corners, it was Veltman who was going really tight on Vestergaard, not allowing him any room to move. And I think if you watch it back in the replay, you see Veltman just lock onto him. And the only way you get away from that, Dan, is by stopping him from holding you in the first place.
Yeah.
And if you know what's coming, or you think someone's getting a little bit too close for comfort in your personal space on a pitch, then the easy option is just to nudge him off you and get him away from you. It's as simple as that. And if he's holding you, or he's getting a bit too close, then you can shout to the referee and say, "Ref, just watch him here. I think he's going to try and hold me or stop. He's going to try and impede me attacking the ball." So you have got options as a defender to try and stop that. But the most basic one, Vestergaard's 6'5", 6'6", whatever he is. Mopé's about 5'10". See you later, sunshine. Off you pop. And that didn't happen. Mopé was allowed to go in and grab Vestergaard and basically root him to the floor. And sometimes you just got to use a bit of physical force to make sure that you have enough room for yourself to go and attack the ball.
So that was obviously 1-0 to Brighton. And then at the break, I think Brendan Rodgers obviously will have been very disappointed with that first half performance. And you did see a different Leicester in that second half, apart from obviously the first, 5 or 10 minutes when Brighton did make it 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, he made the change, didn't he? He took off James Maddison, brought on Adam Lookman, who looked sharp. He looked lively. And if you're going to play with a 4-3-3, I think you have to either include Lookman or Iheanacho. I mean, Iheanacho must be scratching his head thinking what he's done wrong here. I mean, because he wasn't brought on yesterday until the 75th minute when Leicester are losing the game, they're chasing the game. And for me, he hasn't been given enough opportunity in the Premier League this season. I mean, had a great season last season for the football club. And at the minute, does James Maddison, is he doing enough in games to be starting on a regular basis? He's had a slow start, and I don't think that if you're going to go with 3 up top like Leicester did yesterday, I don't think that quite suits James Maddison because he hasn't got the pace of a Vardy or Harvey Barnes. So I do think that maybe one of those, Lookman or Iheanacho, would have been better suited to have started yesterday. But when you can see it's a sloppy goal, free header for Welbeck in the 6-yard box, who's picking him up? That zonal marking again, it's disappointing. So overall, Dan, it was a disappointing afternoon. You have to say, and looking at it now, 2 wins in 5, probably a disappointing start to the season.
Yeah, we actually spoke, Jerry, before the game, didn't we, about set pieces and about defending them, because we talked about that back 3 of Brighton and how they are potent going forward, and it was just frustrating really to see what happened in the end.
Dan, at the end of the day, set pieces, sorted the outcome of this game. It's as simple as that. 4 set pieces 4 goals, 2 disallowed, 1 penalty and 1 in the back of the net. And that shows you how important set pieces are. You know, and everyone goes on about general play. Yes, Leicester scored a great team goal in general play. But in yesterday's game, all the decisions and all the goals came from set pieces. And that just shows, I mean, as I say, you can't state highly enough how important they are. I mean, you look at Welbeck's goal. He's allowed to just stroll into that near post space. Everyone's watching the ball. No one's even picking up the run. It's not even a run, it's a jog. So you've got enough time to go and get tighter to him. But because no one gets tight to him, he's just allowed to stroll into that space. It's a great ball in as well, by the way. So take nothing away from that. Pinpoint ball into the box. And it's a simple header. All he has to do is flick it. Just get his forehead on it, and it's automatically taking it towards a goal. I think that's the frustrating thing, is when you actually break the goal down and you see the movement of Welbeck, it's not this magical run that he's bamboozled Leicester's defence. He's just strolled, literally just walked into that near post position. Thank you very much.
Leicester did then get a goal back, Tony. We'll talk about how good that goal was from a team point of view in a minute. But we might as well, because we're on the topic of the decisions and of set pieces, speak about the first of the 2 disallowed goals. Ademola Lookman looked as if he got a first goal for the club, didn't it, until the flag went up?
Yeah, he did, and it was hugely disappointing. I'm just trying to put myself in Harvey Barnes' position, Dan, because that was when I played for all my teams that I played for. My role at the corner, basically, because let's be honest, I'm 4'6". I'm not going to win a header, am I? When a corner comes in, I'll leave that to Iwan and Takes to go and attack the ball, or Matt Elliott or whatever. So my role was quite simple. It was to stand on the goalkeeper, and you want to get as close to the goalkeeper as you can. And if possible, legally, I know it's different now because there's cameras everywhere, I understand that, but legally, you've got to try and stop the goalkeeper coming out to attack the ball, to allow your centre forward, your centre half to attack the ball going into the corner. But if the ball comes in and there's going to be a chance or whatever, when I played, Dan, it was simple. You couldn't stand on the goalkeeper and everyone pushed out, and because you'd be offside. So the point I'm making with Harvey is, he's either got to come out to where level with the last defender and take your chances from that point of view, or you've got to step to one side. You almost can't stand on the goalkeeper, because if you do, we've got this rule about line of sight and that, which, listen, I don't know whether it's a good rule or not. We saw the goal at Norwich, didn't we? The Leicester goal, and Casper complained, and obviously that goal was disallowed. So it can work in your favour. But if you're that man standing on the goalkeeper, you really are playing Russian roulette. If you just stand on the goalkeeper, you've either got to move 2 yards to the right, or you've got to get level with the last defender. And that's my only slight criticism of him. The first one, I think he probably was in the line of sight. I think that was a correct decision. The second one, for the life of me, I don't understand. Wilf's put in a great header, and Harvey is not in the line of sight. You saw the clip last night, the one I saw from the referee's point of view. He's looking straight at it, and as he's looking at it, you can quite clearly see the goalkeeper, and Harvey's to the side of him. So I don't think he did a lot of wrong in the second one. The first one, he was perhaps, you could just call it just a little bit lazy in terms of going 2 yards to the right or 2 yards back on side. That's my only criticism. First one, I think perhaps was the correct decision. Wilfred's header, I'm sorry, I just don't understand that one.
Yeah, no.
I think judging from reactions and stuff on Twitter from Leicester fans, they've even said that themselves, Ewan, a little bit. They've talked about the 3 decisions. They said they disagree with, obviously, the penalty. They said the first one, they understand why it's been disallowed, because he is in the line of sight. Very similar to the Kasper Schmeichel one at Norwich a few weeks ago. But it's the third one that they are frustrated by.
Yeah, and that's what leaves you scratching your head, Dan, as what they are looking at. And obviously it's different individuals that get these VAR decisions to look at. And I, as I said to you at the beginning of the programme, I looked at the Matip goal last week, and it was very, very similar to Harvey Barnes, or the Ndidi header, where Harvey Barnes, he's taken 2-3 steps to the goalkeeper's right. He's not in his vision. Okay, he's standing in an offside position. I think we'd all admit that. But is he interfering with play? No, he's not. The goalkeeper still isn't getting that header. And it was the wrong decision. It was the wrong decision. And as I say, it's the lack of consistency when they do look at these goals. That's what's disappointing. And, no wonder Leicester fans weren't happy with at least two of those three decisions. Because for me, and I think that the boys have alluded to them, that they got them wrong.
It's usually my job to play devil's advocate, Jerry, but I know that you kind of want to yourself, particularly with certainly the first one, you agree with the decision. Even then, that last one, you think there is a small case for it.
Well, I think, if you're Harvey or if you're Brendan, then you have a word. I think Tony's explained it perfectly well there. I think if you're going to stand on the keeper and you've already been given offside, then you don't make the same mistake twice. And I know, Ken, what you're saying, that he moved to the side of the keeper. But I think that if he's going to block the keeper initially, he has to come back onside. So when the ball's about to be played in, he nudges the keeper, puts him off balance to stop him from coming for it, and then he gets out back in the onside position. And that's just the to make sure that he doesn't get caught in the same position again. When we're talking about it, I know what the lads are saying. They're saying he wasn't interfering with play. He wasn't in the line of sight of the goalkeeper. It should have been given, but it wasn't. It was disallowed. Now, if he does exactly what I've just explained, i.e. initially stands on the keeper, gives him a little gentle nudge, and then gets back onside, Wilfred heads the ball, there's no decision to make from the referee. And I think after you've just been caught offside, which, let's face it, being caught offside from a corner is pretty rare. It's not often that happens. And to be caught offside from two corners when the ball's ended up in the back of the net, I don't think I've ever seen that before in a game of football. And so what I'm saying is, after the first one, you get a message on to Harvey and say, Harvey, stand on the keeper and then get yourself back onside, like Tony said.
Do you think with the introduction of VAR, Tony, and the whole line of sight thing from corners, that teams might stop putting players on the line? I know with zonal things that not many teams have players on each post for corners, but now obviously Brighton didn't yesterday. Do you think all teams will start doing that because of that potential offside of the man on the keeper?
Well, football's always evolving, isn't it? I think we saw the Spurs-Chelsea game yesterday. There was a header. I think was it Rudiger who scored, and if there'd have been a guy on the far post corner, he might have got his foot on it and cleared it. So, I've always believed having a player on what you would call the far post is always a good thing, because if that ball's whipped in, invariably players will try and flick it towards the far post to try and score. So it's always good to have someone on the far post, but. With the new ruling, Dan, I don't know. I mean, the line of sight is such a vague thing, isn't it? And what constitutes line of sight? Does it mean someone standing right in front of me like that, or is it someone just there? I don't quite get the rules. I think sometimes they make it very, very difficult. The lawmakers, as I said, in my day, you was either offside or you weren't offside. It was simple, absolutely simple. And on both occasions, Harvey Wood tagged his right. He was offside both occasions. So back in the 80s, 90s, offside, not even an issue. But now, excuse me, you're talking about whether a player is interfering with play, is in the line of sight, and ultimately, all it does is make the referee's job even harder, and then you then introduce VAR, and that makes it an absolute minefield. So I think it needs to be simplified a little bit. Players, managers, clubs, staff will always try and manipulate the rules to get that little bit of advantage, which is so crucial in football. So whatever rules you bring in, the players will try and bend the rules and push the rules as much as they can. But I think it probably needs to be simplified a little bit, just so that everyone understands it, because otherwise we're all scratching our heads. We don't know what's going on.
Right, let's move away then from the decisions in the game, Ewan, and we can talk about the Leicester goal. I think I said yesterday on Matchday Live, if Leicester had won that game, this goal would be up for Goal of the Month awards, potentially even a Goal of the Season award, because of how good it was as a team move. I mean, it still might, obviously, but it just always it's nicer to talk about in a victory.
I mean, that's what Leicester are capable of, Dan, with the players that they've got now. I mean, it was a fantastic move down that right-hand side. Ricardo, strong run, but then just the little 1-2s and fantastic ball in by Yuri Tielemans. He put it into an area where he knows Jamie Vardy's going to be. And I think it was a similar goal to the one he scored at Carrow Road. Similar sort of an area, and that's he feeds off that, just Jamie Vardy, and made good contact, and it was a really, really, really good team goal. And you just thought then, having scored on 61 minutes with over half an hour with injury time to go, that Leicester were going to get back into the game. But yeah, it was a magnificent goal, you have to say. And Jamie Vardy, he started the season really, really well. I think he looks sharp, he looks quick, as he just doesn't get any older, does he? He just carries on performing to such a high level. 3 goals in his 5 Premier League appearances now, and that is a worry, Dan. 5 goals in total. That is a slight worry that they're not scoring the goals that they did last season. I think in their first opening 5 games last season, they'd scored 12. So I think that is a slight concern, because you can't always put the pressure on Jamie Vardy to be scoring the goals. It's just not right. Other people need to contribute.
Yeah, we'll talk about Jamie Vardy in a little bit more depth very shortly. But we've got to mention again Ricardo, Jerry. If Jamie Vardy's had a good start to the season, Ricardo has also had an excellent start to the season as well. He was instrumental, wasn't he, on that right-hand side?
Well, all Jamie Vardy's goals have come from that side, haven't they? It's as simple as that. All the 3 league goals that he scored have all come from Ricardo's side, and it's Ricardo who's been, the main instigator in providing them. All right, he wasn't a direct assist yesterday, but it was him who started the move off with Lookman down that right-hand side, and a lovely little bit of interplay. And what was even more important was his pass appreciation to Tielemans, so he could play it in first time. He set it just at a lovely pace for him. Obviously on his right foot, so he could bend it. Okay, that's not difficult, but the pace on that pass to Tielemans, so he could just whip it in first time, was absolutely perfect. And obviously Tielemans' balls, as we all know, top class, world class. And again, as we all know, Jimmy does the rest inside the box. His movement's phenomenal. So yeah, but I thought, along with you, and I thought Lookman had a great game when he came on. And them 2 straight away got into a rhythm, got into an understanding. That wasn't the only time that them 2, had passing combinations down that right-hand side. And, with a bit more time on the pitch together, those 2, they could cause some real problems.
Yeah, we'll talk obviously about the Millwall game a bit on Wednesday in a moment, Jerry. But looking specifically at the next Premier League game with Burnley at the weekend, do you expect Ademola Lookman to be in the starting 11 for that one?
Well, he's given himself a great opportunity, hasn't he? Who knows what Brendan's thinking is when it comes to different teams. He sort of tries to work out different weaknesses and then put, players on the pitch that he thinks can exploit those weaknesses. So, who knows? But definitely Lookman, he looks sharp at the minute, doesn't he? And as I said, more importantly is that understanding that your wide players have, i.e. your full back and your wide attacking player have. And if you're causing problems down the sides of the opposition's flank, then you're going to be giving yourself a good opportunity of starting the game. And that was on show yesterday. And I say it didn't happen just for the goal; it happened on numerous occasions down that right-hand side. So he's got to definitely be on my shout. I think also, like Ewan says, Cottee and Nacho as well. He looks sharp at the minute. He looks hungry. I think okay, would he come on 70-odd minutes? Maybe
75,
yeah. For Cottee getting a bit more game time as well, because every time he's come on this season, he's looked really sharp. He's looked hungry. He looks strong. When his back's to goal, he's holding off defenders. So there's a few players knocking at the door at the minute.
Yeah, we could maybe see both of them potentially in action, of course, on Wednesday evening in the Carabao Cup against Millwall. Of course, you can follow all the action, as ever, on Matchday Live on LCFC TV. Tony, what do you make of that? Obviously, a draw against your rivals. You also played for Millwall for a little bit of time as well. So it's a tough place to go, obviously, as we all know.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I had those glorious 19 minutes playing for Millwall at the end of my career, Dan. I'm trying to forget. It's a tough
Tony,
place.
can I just ask you, did you get slated by the fans when you played for them?
Absolutely.
Did you?
100%. They absolutely destroyed me and ripped into me because they know I'm a West Ham boy.
Yeah.
But that was my silly fault for signing for them, I think. But it's actually a really good club, Millwall. There's a lot of good people there. A very well run football club. Ex-teammate of mine as the manager now, Gary Rowett, and he's done a good job there, and he's trying to build. He's trying to get the club into a position where they can challenge. They've not been in the top flight for nearly 30 years now, I think, Millwall. So they're slowly trying to build, and it's very difficult to get out of that championship. We all know that, but it's going to be a tough game. I think a lot will depend on Brendan's selections. The boys have touched on it. Do you play Lookman? Do you play Iheanacho? You've then got a tough Premier League game coming up. Then you've got a Europa League game, and I think this is the difficulty for Brendan. There's been quite a few new players arrive at the football club. There's been a hell of a lot of injuries, which has caused all sorts of problems. So Brendan's like that. He's trying to juggle. He's trying to get players fit. He's trying to get players into the team. He's then trying to pick the right team. And of course, you can't afford to lose too many games in the process. So I think it's going to be a really tough game. Listen, Millwall might make a load of changes as well. That often happens in the League Cup now. Yeah. If they make 7 or 8 changes, you would confidently expect Leicester, with the squad they've got, to go there and win the game. But it's one of those games. Roll your sleeves up, boys. Get stuck in. Don't be intimidated, put off by the crowd. Go and do a professional performance. If it's a 1-0 boring game, it doesn't matter, and get through into the next round of the League Cup.
Do you think Millwall will make changes, Tony, or do you see them really going at this with the same team that's played? I think they played Swansea last weekend, and then Coventry they drew at the weekend as well. So they'll probably fancy their chances a little bit in this game.
Well, they will do it, but it'll just depend on the changes, won't it? It depends on what Gary's thinking. I'm sure he will be more concerned about his league performances and that. And sometimes they view these competitions as a great opportunity to give, might be a couple of promising young kids. They bring a lot of kids through that system, Millwall, so there might be a couple of young kids who get a chance. So it will all depend on the selection and that. But I think realistically, most championship sides, they don't really look at the League Cup as a competition they're really going to win. We very rarely see a team from outside the top flight go and win that League Cup. So I think they might make a lot of changes, and if they do, Leicester should take full advantage of that.
What are you expecting, Ewan, on Wednesday?
I think whatever 11 Brendan puts out, I think it'll be a strong 11, because he has got the squad, the strength and depth in that squad to do that. I do agree with TC. I do think that Gary Rowett, looking at their league form, it isn't good. Okay, I don't think they've lost in their last 5, but they've drawn their last 3. But they've only won once in the Championship in 8 games this season. I think they're 18th in the Championship. They need that winning feeling again. And I look at both teams. Leicester 1 win in 5. They need to get a win under their belt, so get a bit of momentum before that game. And it is a big game against Burnley now because of what happened yesterday. But I wouldn't be surprised if Gary Rowett makes quite a few changes, because as TC alluded to then, I think teams in the Championship, they tend to do that nowadays, tend to make 6, 7, 8 changes if they're in the League Cup. They'll take the FA Cup far more seriously. But yeah, especially at this early stage in the Carabao Cup, I would expect Gary Rowett to make a few changes.
Leicester will have had the taste, Jerry, of silverware, weren't they? Winning the FA Cup last season, winning the Community Shield at the start of this. So they always take the League Cup, the Carabao Cup, fairly seriously, don't they? I think Brendan Rodgers takes every competition he's in fairly seriously. So we expect, again, I'm sure that'll continue on Wednesday.
No, I think, the lads have already touched on it. You look at the bench yesterday, and you look at the players that weren't involved, weren't on the bench. Leicester can make... Well, the only issue they've got is at centre half for me, because they've only got 2 fit. Well, apart from Daniel Amate, who do you think he might come in and play alongside Soyuncu? Vestergaard gets a rest, but that is, that's the only position at the minute where you have to say they're a little bit short on experience and quality as at centre half. So it's either Vestergaard and Soyuncu, or Daniel Amate comes in and plays alongside one of those 2, I would think. unless Castagna goes in. Other than that, then you can make changes all over the park and still have enough quality on the pitch. And that's what Brendan wanted, because he's got, you're talking about the League Cup, and then you've got the European competition, Europa League. It's vital minutes on the pitch for some of the lads who haven't had that much time at the minute, i.e. the likes of Patson Decker and people, Lookman, who was seen obviously for a half yesterday. So you're going through the list of players that could possibly play, and all you can see is quality throughout the squad. So is it going to weaken the team or weaken a team if you make a load of changes against Millwall? Debatable, but not really, because the qualities are, and all the players that Brendan brought in have got quality. They're all internationals. They've all won something from the clubs they've come from. So, it's a strong squad, and Brendan, like you say, he will not want to lose this game. He will not want to go to Millwall and lose this game, Brendan, even if he does make the changes that are probably predicted.
We've talked, Jerry, haven't we, about the fixtures and how September was always going to be a busy month. To be fair, I think every month now this season will be a busy month for Leicester, with the fact they're in the Europa League, hopefully staying in that competition longer this season, staying in both of the cups as well. It's an opportunity for this big squad to be used, isn't it? And you say that if he, for example, makes 8 changes, a lot of people might look and say, oh, he's really rested everyone. But it isn't a case of that really anymore, as all 3 of you have been referencing. This squad is so good now and so strong that 8 changes, 9 changes, even 11 changes doesn't actually make a huge difference to the starting 11.
No, absolutely not. And I think, what sort of brought it to light or brought it home was when I looked at the bench on Thursday for the game on Thursday night against Napoli, and it was absolutely stacked, with quality on it. As I say, 1 or 2 people can't even get on the bench that you would think would get on the bench or would even start. So I think people have to be patient in these competitions, especially at the early stage of the League Cup. People need minutes in their legs. They really do. You've got, I've said it before, you're bringing in players for tens of millions of pounds. You're paying them umpteen thousands of pounds a week for them to sit on the bench. At some stage, you have to have a duty occur and give them minutes on the pitch, because they have to try and repay the money and the investment that the club have made in them. And so this is a perfect opportunity for on Wednesday night for that to happen.
Right, Tony, let's talk about Jamie Vardy. So he made his 250th Premier League appearance yesterday against Brighton. He also scored his 150th goal for the club in all competitions. 2 brilliant milestones happened to come in the same game. And it underlines how incredible he's been for this football club.
Yeah, I think, Dan, I've been on this show so many times, haven't I? Just, drooling about Jamie, because he just, as an ex-centre forward, he's just getting better and better. And I'm going to say something here, Dan, and, very, very sad news yesterday. We lost an absolute legend of football, a guy called Jimmy Greaves. Now, Jimmy, for me, was head and shoulders above every great goal scorer there's been. There's been great goal scorers. Jimmy was the best. You look at the stats, you can't deny that fact. But the reason I've mentioned Jimmy Greaves, because if you look at the last 10 years of Premier League football, Jamie Vardy is up there in the top 3 strikers, goal scorers, if you like, of the Premier last 10 years. He's up there in that top 3, and that is the biggest compliment I can pay him. It's an incredibly hard position to play. You and will agree with what I'm saying here. It's such a hard position to play. And in modern day football, a lot of the time, like Jamie is, you're up there on your own. You're expected to be the complete centre forward, the complete team player. Oh, and by the way, you've got to score some goals as well. And, and that's, he's just getting better and better. I know he's not getting any younger, but I've mentioned it before, with his experience, he's getting in positions. The run for the goal yesterday, we saw that wonderful goal he scored against Wolves, where he cut across the defender, scored at the near post. You don't always have to go to the near post. Sometimes you just hold your run, bend it out to the far post, and then you arrive at the right time. He makes things look so easy. He's a fantastic goal scorer, and I just hope that he plays for Leicester for the next 2, 3, 4 seasons. we're talking about Ronaldo doing that for Manchester United. He's 36. What's Jamie? 34, I think he is. You know, he's still got plenty of time left in those legs. And with the experience he's got now, you know, he knows when to make his runs, how to make his runs. He's been one of the top goal scorers in the Premier League for the last 10 years.
He came to the Premier League when he was 27, which again underlines the longevity that he's got. 250 games in that time, having come in at 27, in itself is a brilliant record.
Dan, I've just looked at his career stats, and he's played 442 games in all competitions. He scored 212 goals. That's unbelievable at the level that he's played at. His fitness levels are second to none. His desire and his hunger is still there. I think he's so infectious, not just off the pitch, but I think not just on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. You know, he's the life and soul of that team. And as TC said there, it's not easy these days. You know, I played it on a handful of occasions when you're up there on your own, and it can be frustrating. You're not getting a touch. You're going through long periods of the game without any sort of service coming into you. He doesn't get frustrated. He doesn't get frustrated with his teammates. He carries on doing the same runs. His movement's unbelievable. He hasn't lost a yard of pace, which is incredible for someone of his age. Long may it continue, because he is vitally important for Leicester City, as we all know.
And it's clear, Jerry, that he's not lost any of that desire to carry on playing and desire to score goals as well, and to, let's say, rustle opposition fans at the beginning of this season. What he did to the Wolves fans when he scored just shows that he is still in this for a long time, and he's certainly got the quality to be in this for a long time.
I think that's probably one of the biggest compliments. I mean, the lads have gone through. TC obviously was a top goal scorer, a box player, so he knows exactly what Jamie Vardy brings to the team, but it's his mental fortitude. Like you say, Iwan's mentioned a good point as well. He doesn't get frustrated with his teammates when things don't go his way. He keeps making those runs. And in some games, 80 to 90% of the time, he won't get the ball for the run he's made. And that becomes very easy for a centre forward to get frustrated with his teammates, but you never see it. And then his mental fortitude to still have that hunger, you know, and that desire to keep making those runs, to keep getting in the right positions, to keep taunting opposition fans when he scores, when he's getting abuse from them. I mean, he lives for it, doesn't he? Let's face it, he lives for playing football. And, you know, if I was the manager, I'd be wrapping him up in bubble wrap, like Tutankhamun, placing him in a gold casket and putting him into the deep freeze for 4 or 5 days and then rolling him out. Right, Jamie, on you go. Because, like Tony, I believe he's got 2 more seasons after this. I really do. I think he's got that in his legs. You know, Ewan's mentioned he hasn't lost that pace. He still has that 15, 20 yards scamper where he can get on the end of it. And his football brain is improving all the time. And that's the key thing as well. The older he gets, the more his brain will develop, i.e. he knows where to pick holes in opposition defences. He knows where to make his runs. We've seen it already with the 3 goals. Classic centre-forward box play with his movement. Absolutely perfection. The timing of his runs in the box. Bang, 3 goals, thank you very much.
He don't miss games either. Sorry, he doesn't miss games either. He very rarely gets injured. You know, you look at his appearances in the Premier League, he doesn't miss too many games. I know he had a bit of a hernia problem last season. I think he's been quite lucky with he hasn't picked up any serious injuries, you know, which does give you more longevity. He obviously looks after his body. He manages his body really well. And Brendan Rodgers, he'll give him as much rest as he needs, as long as he's ready for the Saturday to perform like he has done since he's been at Leicester. That's the most important thing. It doesn't matter if he has 3-4 days off. You know, the most important thing is that he is physically ready to go on a Saturday.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up as a final point, Ewan, is the fact that he's got Brendan Rodgers as his manager. He will be able to manage his game time.
you know what? They've got that really good close relationship. You see it when off camera when Brendan's going on and he's talking to the players after the game, and they've got that. I think they've got a really really close bond. And Brendan knows what he's got. He's got an absolute gem in Jamie Vardy.
Right, let's move on then. So the other Premier League games took place at the weekend. Tony, there is, unfortunately for you, only one place to start, really. Well, talk us through that last sort of 3 or 4 minutes.
Well, I think it's sort of almost quite predictable that Jesse Lingard would score against West Ham, bearing in mind how well he did last season. And it was a fantastic goal as well, wasn't it? And then, of course, the penalty was given. Personally, I did think it was a penalty. As soon as Martin Atkinson went over to look at the screen, you knew he was going to give it. And then Rice picks up the ball and they make a substitution. And, I've had, after the game, there's so many fans moaning about the decision. And, to be fair to David Moyes, he's taken responsibility. If the ball goes in, no one says a word. It's a masterstroke, genius, from the manager. If the penalty's saved, which it was, then it's an awful decision. I'm a bit split on it. I mean, Mark Noble, I think he scored 38 out of 42 penalties, Dan. So in a way, it was the correct decision because you're bringing on your main penalty taker. But having said all that, and the boys will know what I'm going to say here, if you haven't warmed up, if you've not touched the football and you're coming on the field of play when you haven't touched the ball and it's such an important game and such an important penalty to take, I think it must be really, really difficult. We saw the same scenario in the Euros, didn't we, in the final with Sancho and Rashford. I don't think either of them had touched the ball, and then you're taking penalties in a Euros final and that. And I think it's a dangerous game to play. Like I say, if it goes in, everyone says, "Oh, brilliant, David Moyes is a genius." If he misses it, then you get the stick that follows with it. But it was a really strange, surreal experience. It really was. And to be fair, I thought West Ham sort of deserved a draw on the day as well. Credit Man United got the 3 points, but I think West Ham deserved a draw.
Jerry, I think a lot of Leicester fans brought it up, and it did remind me. Do you remember a couple of seasons ago, I think it was the 18-19 season at Spurs at Wembley, Leicester got a penalty and Jamie Vardy was brought off the bench. It was about 60 minutes into the game. And his first touch took the penalty. Hugo Lloris saved it. Now, Jamie Vardy scored about 5 minutes later to make up for it. But it must be a difficult skill to come on without having touched the ball and then take a penalty like that.
Well, just going back to what Tony said, Mark Noble, again, he's knocking on a bit, isn't he? And sitting on the bench for the whole game, not being warm. He probably was as stiff as I am right now, sat here. And then to be asked to come on in an absolutely crucial moment. Let's analyse this properly. You're being asked to come on a pitch. You're sat there enjoying a tea and a coffee, chatting to the lads. Next minute, oi, Noble, on, take that penalty, get us a point. What? And I know, okay, Mark Noble's been through the mill and he's been there, seen it and done it with West Ham. And he is a main penalty taker and a very good penalty taker as well. But I'm sorry, You're telling me West Ham haven't got enough quality on the pitch for someone else to go and take that penalty? Yeah. Whether it's Declan Rice or Souček or one of the other guys, Lanzini, whoever. You're telling me not one of those lads had the bottle to go and take that penalty. I'm not saying, like Tony says, I totally agree, it was a manager's decision. But if you're not warm, you're not stretched, you haven't kicked through any balls, I don't see how you can step up and give that penalty or strike that ball with the ferocity that it deserves to get it into the net. And that's exactly what happened. It was a side foot penalty. There was no body shape from Noble. It was an easy one for the keeper to guess right, in my opinion. And there was no real pace on the ball. It was a side foot. And I think in those situations, the last kick of the game, crucial moment of the game, when you're stepping up, you're putting your foot through that. And that didn't happen. Just it was just bizarre. It was bizarre. It was bizarre.
Yeah, well, that was it. Both the games that kicked off at 2 both had bizarre moments in them. Iwan, final word to you. Any other games that took your eye during the weekend?
Proper statement from Chelsea yesterday. Winning, going to Spurs' new stadium and absolutely hammering 3-0. I think that's a real statement of intent. They were a very, very good side last season. Defensively, they're rock solid. now with the inclusion of Lukaku up front, I think they've got an absolute great chance of winning the Premier League. And to be fair, got to mention Southampton going up to the Etihad, and probably should have come away with the win had VAR once again maybe got the decision for the penalty, which I thought was a penalty. I can't remember who was dragged down, but to go up there, and especially the form Man City were in and scored 16 goals in their last 3 games, I think, to keep a clean sheet. I thought that was a really, really good performance by Southampton.
Right, let's move on then. It's time for football Jenga. The 3 of you all wry smiles. I don't think you're actually too happy the fact that you've got to do it. Hopefully this one will take a little bit longer than previous ones have. For those of you that haven't, the viewers, listeners that don't know what this is Football Jenga. I'll give these guys a theme, and they've got to then take it in turns to give me an answer that relates to that. If they get it wrong or they repeat one, they are out, and then it is the last man standing, basically. So with Jamie Vardy making his 250th Premier League appearance and scoring his 150th goal for the club on Sunday, I want you guys to name all of the Premier League teams that Jamie Vardy has scored a goal against. And just with the way that I've got the setup, Ewan, you're in my top left, so you can go first for me, please.
I'm going to go West Bromwich Albion.
Tony?
Wolves.
Jerry?
Liverpool.
Norwich.
West Ham.
Man City.
Oh, Tiger, you've done me. Everton.
He must have scored against Chelsea, surely, somewhere along the line.
Who did we play yesterday? Brighton.
He's got to have scored against Burnley as well.
Newcastle.
Aston Villa.
Everton.
We've had that already. Who
Have
said
we?
it? One of you said Everton. Might even have been. Yeah, was it you, Tony? Yeah. Yeah, so you and you're out, I'm afraid. Just like last week, you've repeated one.
I'm just waiting for the boom to come from you.
So he's giving him the send-off, yeah. Ewan just wants to get out into the sun, that's what it is. Right, it's between Tony and Jerry then. So, Tony.
Palace.
Manchester United.
Sheffield United.
That was my one, Tone. I was keeping that as my banker. Little Sheffield United. Bournemouth.
Your one, Tags. Fulham.
Is that right, Dan? Fulham. Arsenal.
Have we not said that? No.
No.
Pressure's on now. Is it a Premier League? Did you say, Dan? Is it
Premier League? Yeah.
Yeah. Dear me.
Today.
Watford.
Good shout.
Watford, yeah.
Good shout.
Leeds, correct.
Swansea. Today.
To go. There's 6 to go.
Manchester United.
We've had them, haven't we?
You've said that already.
Have we?
Yes.
Thanks, how's it go? Boom.
Well done, Tone. Yeah.
Yeah. Well done, Tony. Jerry, you've repeated one that you said yourself. So
Right.
you went third, Jerry second, Tony's won it. The teams you missed, there's 6 that you missed. Huddersfield, QPR, Southampton, Spurs,
Southampton.
Stoke and Sunderland.
Sunderland. I was nearly going to go for Sunderland as well. And I
Yeah,
thought, no.
Surprised missed Tottenham.
Yeah, Tottenham's a big one. Yeah.
But yeah, so well done to Tony Cottee.
Well done, Tone.
On your
Deserved
winner.
that.
TC.
And on that note, thank you very much to the three of you. Jerry, enjoy golf. Ewan, enjoy the south of France. And Tony, enjoy winning football Jenga.